7 microns. That is the thickness of the zinc coating on a standard Duragal Caravan chassis. 7 microns. For context, a human hair is about 70 microns thick. So the corrosion protection between your family and a structural chassis failure is 1/10 the width of a single hair. And the industry calls that galvanized. It's technically true, but it's a very different thing from a hot-dipped galvanized chassis, which is coated at between 56 and 80 microns of zinc that becomes part of the steel itself. Most buyers don't know the difference. Most salesmen won't tell you. And by the time you see the rust, the damage is already inside the steel where you can't reach it. Corrosion is the silent killer of caravans in Australia. It doesn't make a noise. It doesn't throw a warning light. It sits inside your chassis, inside your wall cavities, inside the joints where dissimilar metals meet, and it eats the structure from the inside out until one day a repairer taps the box section and it sounds hollow where it shouldn't. Today I'm giving you 7 caravans that rust out fast in Australian conditions and 5 that, in my honest opinion, will never corrode in any meaningful way. I'm Liam. I'm 50. I've been repairing caravans my whole adult life, and I have scraped more rust out of chassis rails than I care to remember. No sponsorships, no brand loyalty, nobody paying me a cent. Everything here comes from first-hand workshop experience, corrosion science, published chassis engineering data, and documented owner reports. Let's go. Starting with the 7 that rust. Number 7 is any budget caravan or camper trailer with a painted mild steel chassis. This is the cheapest way to build a chassis, and it's the most common on sub-$30,000 show specials and low-end Chinese imports. The chassis is fabricated from mild steel, given a coat of primer and paint, and sent out the door. The moment that paint is chipped, scratched, or worn through, which happens the first time you tow on gravel, moisture reaches bare steel and corrosion begins. Paint doesn't self-heal. Once it's breached, rust grows underneath the surface coating invisibly, spreading outward from the chip like damp spreading through plaster. Owners of these vans report visible chassis rust within 6 to 12 months of purchase, particularly around weld seams, bolt holes, and anywhere the stone guard doesn't cover. By year 3, a painted steel chassis that's been taken on unsealed roads regularly is structurally compromised. Walk away. Number 6 is any caravan with exposed mild steel plumbing brackets, wiring conduits, or tank mounts hanging underneath the van. This is one of the most common design failures I see, and it's not limited to cheap brands. Even some mid-range Australian-built vans route their plumbing and wiring underneath the body in mild steel brackets that are either painted or left raw. Every rock strike, every creek crossing, every gravel road is throwing moisture and debris at those components. Within 2 to 3 years, the brackets corrode, plumbing shifts, and wiring chafes through corroded conduits causing electrical faults. The fix is simple. Run everything inside the body. The Lifestyle Recon R2 does this, eliminating roughly 40% of the underside damage I see. But most manufacturers don't, because routing internally costs more. The buyer pays the price later. Number 5 is the pre-galvanized Duragal chassis with unprotected internal welds. And this is the one that catches people out, because they see the word galvanized on the brochure and assume they're protected. Duragal steel is hot-dipped galvanized in the factory before it's cut and welded into a chassis. The external surfaces are coated, but when the steel is cut, the edges are exposed, and when it's welded, the heat burns off the zinc around the weld zone. Let me put that in plain language. The most structurally critical points on the chassis, the welds, are the least protected from corrosion. On the outside, a fabricator can touch up the weld with zinc paint, but on the inside of the box section, where you can't see and can't reach, those welds are bare steel. Moisture condenses inside box sections. It sits on those bare welds, and over years, the corrosion eats through from the inside out. By the time you see rust on the outside of a Duragal chassis weld, the inside could be significantly worse. Supergal, which galvanizes both internal and external surfaces, is better, but still leaves welds exposed. The only method that covers everything, including internal welds, is post-fabrication hot dip galvanizing, where the entire finished chassis is submerged in molten zinc at 450 degrees. That fills every nook, every cranny, every internal weld zone. Most budget and mid-range manufacturers don't do it because it costs more and adds about 50 kilos. But those 50 kilos might save your chassis. Quick favor before I hit the top 4. If this is changing how you look at your next van, hit subscribe. It helps get this in front of the next person who's about to buy a painted chassis and find out the hard way. On we go. Number 4 is any caravan with a timber-framed wall construction stored within 20 kilometers of the Australian coast. Salt air is an accelerant for every form of corrosion, but when it combines with the moisture retention of timber framing, you get a double failure. The salt air corrodes the steel fasteners holding the frame together, while the moisture absorbed by the timber causes rot and swelling that puts pressure on those same fasteners. Within 5 to 7 years of coastal storage, a timber-framed caravan will show rust staining around screw heads on the exterior cladding, and by the time you see it from outside, the internal frame is already compromised. Coastal caravanners need composite or aluminium-framed vans. No exceptions. Number 3 is any caravan with steel screws driven into aluminium panels or aluminium framing. This is called galvanic corrosion, and it happens when two dissimilar metals are in direct contact in the presence of moisture. Steel and aluminium are far apart on the galvanic series, which means when they touch and moisture gets in, the aluminium corrodes rapidly around the fastener. You'll see it as white powdery deposits around screw heads on aluminium cladding. It weakens the panel, loosens the fastener, and creates a pathway for water to enter the wall cavity. The fix is simple. Use stainless steel or aluminium fasteners with proper isolation washers. But cutting corners on fasteners saves a few cents per screw across thousands of screws per van, and some manufacturers take that shortcut. If you're inspecting a used van, check every visible screw head on the aluminium cladding. White powder around the heads means galvanic corrosion is already underway, and what you can see is only a fraction of what's happening inside. Number 2 is the COVID-era build with poorly installed seals that are allowing moisture into the wall cavity right now. During the 2021 to 2023 production boom, factories rushed builds, hired inexperienced staff, and in many cases, seals around windows, doors, tunnel boots, and roof penetrations were fitted badly or skipped entirely. Water has been entering those wall cavities for 2 to 4 years. In a composite van, the water sits harmlessly against material that won't absorb it, and eventually drains or evaporates. In a timber-framed van, that water has been soaking into the frame, causing rot, weakening joints, and corroding every metal fastener it touches. A thermal imaging scan costs a few $100s and will show you exactly where moisture is hiding. If your van was built during that window, get it scanned now. Not next season, now. And number 1, the caravan that rusts out faster than any other in Australian conditions is any van with a painted steel chassis that has been taken regularly onto unsealed roads. Every stone chip is a breach. Every scratch through the paint is an entry point. And unlike a galvanized chassis, where the zinc continues to protect the steel even when damaged, a painted chassis has no self-healing properties at all. Rust doesn't stop at the chip. It grows underneath the paint, spreading outward in every direction, invisible until it breaks through the surface. By then, the steel underneath can be paper thin. I've seen 5-year-old painted chassis where the A-frame had corroded so badly you could push a screwdriver through the steel. A screwdriver. Through the structural member that connects your van to your car. That is not a maintenance issue. That is a life safety failure. Now the 5 that never will. Number 5 is Retreat Caravans. Composite RXP wall construction, aluminum framing, and a build method that eliminates timber from the equation entirely. No timber means no moisture absorption. No moisture absorption means no internal corrosion pressure on fasteners and frame joints. Number 4 is Crusader Caravans. Full composite construction on Australian steel, 4-time CIV Manufacturer of the Year, and the only brand to hold Master Manufacturer accreditation. Their composite panels are immune to moisture penetration, and the build precision means seals are fitted properly the first time. Number 3 is Lotus Caravans. Lotus uses their own AL+ aluminum alloy frames rather than steel. Aluminum doesn't rust. Period. Combined with Cruisemaster suspension and Red Arc electrical systems, the Lotus platform is engineered from the ground up to resist the specific corrosion challenges of Australian outback touring. 6-year-old Lotuses are still structurally sound in conditions that would destroy a painted steel van in 3. Number 2 is Kedron Caravans. Hot-dipped galvanized chassis, post-fabrication, meaning every weld, every internal surface, every bolt hole is fully protected by 56 to 80 microns of zinc that has chemically bonded with the steel. Interlocked aluminum frames that don't corrode. Built in Brisbane for over 60 years by 3 generations of the Gall family. A 14-year-old Kedron with 0 chassis corrosion is not unusual. It's the norm. And number 1, the caravan that will never rust out in any condition, on any road, in any part of Australia, is Bush Tracker. Hot-dipped galvanized double-laminated chassis. Let me break that down. The chassis is fabricated from steel, then fully submerged in molten zinc, so every surface, internal and external, is protected. Then it's laminated with a second protective layer. The result is a corrosion barrier so thick and so chemically bonded to the steel that 15-year-old bush trackers pulled out of the deepest, saltiest, wettest corners of Western Australia show no meaningful chassis corrosion at all. None. That is not marketing. That is what I've seen with my own eyes in the workshop. So the recap. 7 that rust, painted mild steel chassis, exposed steel underneath, pre-galvanized Duragal with unprotected welds, timber frame vans near the coast, steel screws and aluminium, COVID-era builds with failed seals, and painted chassis taken off-road. 5 that never will, Retreat, Crusader, Lotus, Kedron, and Bush Tracker. My honest takeaway is this. Corrosion is the #1 structural killer of caravans in Australia, and it's almost entirely preventable at the manufacturing stage. Hot-dip galvanizing, composite construction, aluminium framing, and proper fastener selection solve the problem before it starts. The manufacturers that do these things build vans that last decades. The ones that cut corners build vans with a ticking clock inside the walls from day one. You cannot outrun rust with maintenance. You can only delay it. The only real protection is buying a van that was built to resist it from the factory floor. Check the chassis type. Check the fasteners. Check the construction method. And never let a salesman tell you that painted steel is good enough for Australian conditions. It isn't. Share this with someone who's shopping. It might save their chassis. I'll see you in the next one. Check underneath before you check the price tag. This content reflects the presenter's honest opinions based on publicly available information, including chassis engineering data, published corrosion science, manufacturer specifications, independent reviews, and first-hand workshop experience at the time of recording. Individual experiences may vary. Always conduct independent research and seek professional advice before making any purchasing decision.